Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Kidney Coach YouTube channel. I'm naturopathic Dr. Fiona Chin, co-founder of Kidney Coach and the Kidney Disease Solution and formulator at Genesis. And I'm joined again today by the beautiful Kelly Welsh. Kelly is part of the K&I team. She is a renal dietitian, but what makes Kelly super, super special is Kelly has polycystic kidney disease herself. And if you watched our last podcast, you could see Kelly talking about everything that she did to manage and stabilize her disease before going into transplant. And I'm now excited to say Kelly has gone through her kidney transplant, and we're here today to talk about her journey, how she's gone with it, and why she looks so fabulous post-transplant, what she's doing to keep her kidneys healthy or her new kidney, and what she's doing to love that kidney into life so it lasts for the rest of her life. Kelly Welsh, welcome, and thank you so much for joining me and sharing so vulnerably your journey with everybody. It's just, I think you're such a gift. Thank you.
Thank you for having me again. I appreciate it. And like we talked about, I mean, I'm an open book. The more I can provide, hopefully the less scary it is for someone, or the more fear that it takes away from someone to know that you can do this if this is the path that you have to go through.
So for those people that maybe haven't seen your other podcasts, just give us a brief background of your condition and how long you'd had it, and if you had symptoms and where you're at in your EGFR and those sort of things coming up into transplant, and then we'll get into transplant and post-transplant.
Sure. So I was diagnosed over 25 years ago. I was just out of college. I knew my dad had it, but I knew nothing about it. And so I graduated as a dietitian, and once I was diagnosed and the reason I was diagnosed was just high blood pressure. And there was no reason for a 22-year-old to have high blood pressure. And so digging deeper, they found out that I had polycystic kidney disease, which changed the entire direction of my career because I needed to ease my mind and find out anything and everything that I could about this disease and put myself back into the driver's seat. Throughout the years, I was very stable. I worked in the renal nutrition arena and, again, tried to gather a lot of information. There wasn't a lot of things we could do at that point to empower ourselves. But unfortunately, or fortunately, whatever way you want to look at it, about 2 years ago is when my GFR really, really started to drop. Now, I can't say I had a ton of symptoms while my GFR was dropping. My kidneys were getting larger, which at times caused some discomfort, but I didn't deal with infections or UTIs or anything like that. Blood pressure became harder to control, but was managed with medication. So outside of being uncomfortable and maybe a little fatigued looking back, there wasn't a whole lot that disrupted my everyday activities. So then I started about 2 years ago, the Renew or the plant-focused ketogenic diet with the goal, because I had reached the stage of knowing I needed a transplant. So during the waiting period, which I had no idea of that waiting period would be, finding a match, waiting, whatever it was, I knew that I wanted to get myself as healthy as possible to approach transplant and come out of transplant the very best that I could. And so I was able to, through diet management, I credit it to, keep my symptoms at bay, the symptoms that the textbook said I should be having, and made it all the way to transplant. The day I was transplanted, my GFR was actually at 6%. So it was fairly low, but puzzling to the doctors because I had no of the classic, like I said, textbook symptoms that I should have had. So again, I attribute that a lot to self-care. I do attribute it to mindset, no doubt, to help keep me healthy enough and in, I guess, a great condition to receive the kidney when I did.
And when you say none of the symptoms, what about on lab results? Like, were you pushing protein through the urine? Was it foamy? Were you, apart from a low EGFR, were there any other markers in your blood that would say, yeah, okay, the kidneys aren't great? Or were you really just a low EGFR and everything was like, yeah, we're working as best we can?
Yes, there was a couple things. So no matter what I could do, I could not lower my BUN or blood urea nitrogen where I wanted it to be. It was always a little bit higher than it should be, but not sky high. And again, I was eating a plant focused, not plant only. I was eating a plant focused diet. So that probably helped with the buildup of toxins and things like that. Outside of that, I did have a little bit of protein in my urine, but that varied depending on, again, what I had eaten, what was my blood pressure, did we need to adjust blood pressure meds, was there anything else going on? But I did not have high potassium. I did not have high phosphorus throughout the entire time, which again, I have to attribute to how closely I was paying attention to what I was eating. And again, I didn't feel deprived in any way. I just had to think about what I was doing on a normal basis, but it was worth it in the end.
Yeah, amazing. And I know you were feeling pretty good going into transplant because that's when we spoke. So walk me through, maybe the week or couple of days before transplant, and then we'll dive into how you are now and what you're going to do for the future.
Sure. So I cannot lie, transplant was scary. I do, and mostly because maybe a lot of what you hear from people, from the internet, from social media, whatever it is, a lot of the stories you hear, unfortunately, are the horror stories or the negative experiences. And so I was nervous. I mean, I remember the day of the transplant, my husband and I walking into the hospital and really feeling like, oh, geez, I don't know if I could do this. Really, I could. And I reminded myself at that point, one foot in front of the other. Like, you have done this, you have taken the steps to get on this list, you have had to do many things, and I conquered them with one step at a time. I had a great medical team here in Madison, Wisconsin. They were informative, they were competent, they were relaxed, for lack of better words, but they were confident that this was going to be successful and I had a good match. So really, it was one step at a time, but I would be lying if I said that it wasn't at all nerve-wracking or anxiety filled. But that's where the mindset piece comes in. You have to trust and you have to just move forward, because what was I going to do? There was no moving backwards. So
no, it's a really good point, actually. So you went in, how long did you have to spend in hospital?
So surprisingly enough, they said I would be there between 7 to 10 days, because not only did I get a new kidney, they actually removed my native kidneys. So it was a large incision down, my entire abdomen in the front. And they said that I would be there about 7 to 10 days. Surprisingly enough, I was well enough and moving around enough to get out of the hospital on day 4. Which was crazy. Yeah, it was crazy. It was unexpected. That too was filled with a lot of anxiety, going home with all of this brand new medication. You just didn't know. You thought, oh my gosh, now there's this new, it's almost like coming home with a new baby. That's what I can describe it as. Like, well, what do I do now? But it was day 4. Blood pressure had managed. Everything went smoothly in the hospital for me and really moved forward just as they expected. So I was very lucky.
And do you mind running us through the medication? Was it a lot? Is it a lot? Is it forever? How much have you stopped?
Yes, great question. So when I left the hospital, I was on, and I know the exact number, I was on exactly 43 pills per day.
Wow.
43 pills, yes. Divided into 2 doses. So you took, some in the morning and some in the afternoon. But surprisingly enough, the decrease in these medications, as long as everything goes well, happened rather quickly. I mean, the first decrease happened after 30 days, and then your immunosuppressant medications are adjusted and decreased according to your lab level, your blood levels that you have taken. More medication was reduced after 90 days. So at this point, I'm on, I think, 29 pills a day at this point. So 4 months later, quite a big decrease. And as long as everything goes well, that medication will continue to decrease. I won't ever, for the rest of my life, be off of that medication. But the decrease in it, will happen as long as everything goes well. So
amazing. And so you were telling me before, so you had both your native kidneys taken out, and they were what, 10 pounds, did you say?
Correct. Yes.
And you've got one new one in.
One new one in. Yes, exactly.
And that one has been, did you know the donor, or it was just a mysterious?
No, it is, he or she is very mysterious to me. I don't know them personally, but I was part of the National Kidney Registry here in the United States. So I had a donor who was a stranger, believe it or not. She had heard through friends that I was looking for a kidney and wanted to donate. We weren't a match, but she decided to move forward and donate on my behalf. So if you think of it, it's like a voucher, or I mean, a coupon is not a right word for someone giving a kidney.
I know what you mean.
But that sort of thing. And so she donated her kidney back on January 31st. And then they had told me it would be 3 to 6 months, probably closer to the latter. After she donated, I was called within 7 weeks and said that they had a donor for me. And the only thing I know is that they were in the States, but part of the National Kidney Registry as well. So I know that they were donating to, obviously, a loved one of theirs as well. So.
Oh, beautiful. Oh, how nice. Oh, well, that's nice. So you get to look after this person's kidney. So that's good.
I sure do. Yes, I sure do. I thank this person every single day. Yeah, every single day.
So for people that don't know, what are the likelihood that the new kidney can become cystic, being that polycystic is a genetic disease? Or is that something that, people like, once you have the transplant, you don't have to worry about it?
Once you remove those, not remove, but so now that I don't have my native kidneys, I won't have cysts in my new kidney. And that's, actually, that's not the right way to say it. My new kidney, whether I had my polycystic kidney disease or not, would never contract polycystic kidneys. It's within the kidneys themselves. So with or without them, that wouldn't happen. For sure.
That's great. And I just wanted you, I'm so glad you said that. I think some people like, well, you get to put it in and it can happen again. It's not like, say, lupus, where potentially the lupus can re-affect kidneys. Right. As you mentioned, PKD is isolating the kidneys, which is amazing. So going forward now, you've got a really healthy kidney, which must be great. So even with one kidney, what are you doing to look after this new kidney? How are you loving this kidney to make sure it's healthy for as long as possible?
Lots of water. They tell me that the biggest risk for rejection, believe it or not, is becoming dehydrated. And it's the biggest reason why kidney transplant patients end up in the hospital. So lots of water. The first year, my immune system is pretty suppressed. So I'm just trying not to put myself in situations, being around people who are obviously sick, things like that. So that and I haven't gotten sick, again, knock on wood. I am, as far as nutrition goes, it's really, really, really about balance. Not a whole lot from my previous way of eating has changed, with the exception of I'm adding a little bit more protein, which is great, than I did before. Again, there is a moderate amount. It's not over amount. And then I'm able to work in more of the complex carbohydrates. So I'm working in more beans. I'm working in some sweet potatoes and some of the fruits and things like that, which again, it's wonderful to be able to work in some of that stuff. But I have no restrictions per se. It's more about eating overall healthy, and making sure you're getting in your right macros and micronutrients and things like that, and the water, of course.
Yeah.
The other thing is obviously the meds, and then my blood work is down to but it's down to once per month now, so it's
Right.
decreased quite a bit. So eating to my labs is what I always say. If my labs tell me I'm high in something or low in something, but so far I haven't had that. So
Amazing. And you look well, but how are you feeling?
I feel good. I feel really good. It's, having the native kidneys out and the large abdominal incision was hard. And I knew it was going to be hard, but it wasn't too hard. It is absolutely amazing to me how the human body heals after something like that. And walking around and getting back to normal activity, that was so important to me, not only for the healing of my physical body, but for the mind. One of the things I noticed about myself is I got extremely bored sitting around. My mind was too busy. And so I actually went back to work. Now, mind you, I work at home behind a computer, but I went back to work 10 days after my transplant, not full time or not, but dabbling, because I needed something for my mind to do, which that quite possibly was the biggest surprise to me of this whole kidney transplant. They prepare you for the physical things, the medication, the blood work, everything that you have to do. But the one thing they didn't prepare me for, and no one really talks about, is, I guess for lack of better words, I'm going to use how heavy it is on the mind to receive a gift of someone else's kidney, and the changes. It's a lot of responsibility. And, you want to take that responsibility very seriously. And like you said, just take care of that kidney and do the very best. But, the mind piece was harder than I had imagined. But it doesn't last forever. You get used to it and you continue on with your routine. And I have lots of support here. So
that mind piece, and I'm so glad you brought that out. But what do you think are the things or the tools that you use that have helped you most with that?
Definitely talking about the feelings. It's interesting. I do belong to a couple of transplant support groups, and knowing that what I was feeling was totally normal and part of the healing process and the acceptance, and actually how big of a change this was. I think there's the expectation, because they tell you this, like, you're going to get a kidney and you're going to feel so much better. You're going to have all of this energy and life is going to be great. And it is. But like I said, it is not that right away you're back out doing everything that you did before or years ago. It takes time and learning patience with yourself in that healing process as you do adjust to that. And again, the responsibility of someone donating such a gift to you is a lot to accept. But getting right back out there, like I said, for me, it was getting back to doing what I love. And that was nutrition and helping patients, not sitting around watching TV. That was driving me crazy. That wasn't helpful for me. Being around family, being around friends, when I could do that was all very helpful to feel a little bit more normal. And again, as time goes on, you do become used to the idea, and just more grateful and more grateful as time goes on.
Well, I think gratitude has such a underestimated thing, but such a huge potential to heal and all of those sort of great things. So
yes, 100%.
So anyone listening out there that might have PKD or is about to go through a transplant, what advice or information do you want to impart to them that you wish you knew beforehand?
I think persistence. The waiting is really hard. And sometimes you go long periods of time without hearing from the transplant center, and that gets frustrating. But I think you have to remember they know what they're doing. You're not lost in the cracks. They're waiting for that right match, and you have to be patient. and really, really, really focus on keeping yourself as healthy as possible, whatever that means, whatever your doctor's telling you, whether it's medication wise or nutrition wise, because I truly believe not only does it help you in that interim, but it helps you heal faster, helps you heal better after the transplant. And I told you, there's a lot that you have to do to be cleared for transplant, to get the transplant, and just taking it one step at a time, looking at it as this is my next hurdle. I need to cross this, and then the next one and the next one, instead of looking at the big picture, was just a lot easier to deal with, I would say.
Amazing. Well, I think you're amazing, Kelly. So future looks bright. Where to from here? You're going to just keep practicing and seeing patients and supporting them? And
I am absolutely going to do just that. Again, this is what I love. This is my passion. And I'll be doing it for a very long time.
Oh, I think everybody's blessed to have you, especially because you've got firsthand experience about what people are potentially going through, which I think is great. So if you want to connect with Kelly, if you've got PKD, you specialize in PKD, or do you do all? Yeah, I thought you did.
So yes, I'm the Renew Program Coordinator, and I deal right now only with PKD patients. So
great. Okay, I'm glad for clarifying that. So if you want to become part of the Renew program, or if you've got polycystic kidney disease and you want to connect in with a renal dietitian that lives and breathes this, I'll put in the details below, but Kelly can be reached through kidneynutritionalinstitute.org. And because she works at home, it means she can see you wherever you are in the world, which is always a great part, a great thing to be part of. Kelly, thanks again. If you like our podcast, make sure you hit like and subscribe. That way you'll get notified anytime we put up a new video. Kelly, I want to thank you again for your vulnerability and sharing everything with our community. I think this will be really, really helpful for people that are thinking about having to go through transplant or what it looks like for people. So this is a shining example of someone who really did all the right stuff and looked after her kidneys, of what you can look like post-transplant. So you've got the beautiful light shining on the side.
I know. I love it. Thank you, Fiona.
You've got the angelic look about you.
Thank you.
Kelly, thanks again. And thanks for everyone for being part of our community. If you have any questions for Kelly, put them in the comments below and we can get back to you. Thanks again. Bye.